we need a sign off. The score is 1 us,
0 you.
Oh,
that's
no, not you. Like, no, 0, like, racism.
Yeah, that's way better, way better.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr.
Oh, I wasn't expecting a call and response. What am I thinking? Of course, we're Black. Good morning. Well, welcome to the Scorekeepers. It is Minnesota Opera's #1 podcast.
One and only podcast.
One and only podcast. Well, who knows? I don't know. Maybe something will happen between the time we're recording this and now. But we are 3 Black opera administrators. We are here talking about opera, theater, pop culture, all the things from our Black queer perspective. As always, I am Rocky Jones, and I am joined by my 2 fabulous, splendiferous co-hosts, Paige Reynolds and Lee Bynum. Hello, Paige and Lee. How are you?
Hello. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Good.
I'm all right. I have a feeling that like Minnesota isn't gonna have a springtime, and I'm kind of down about that. We're gonna skip straight to summer.
Well, I mean, welcome to DC. That's how I grew up. So
okay, you're right. You just checked me there. I should get used to this.
So
I should be used to it.
I mean, I'm okay with it.
How are you, Lee?
I am just fine today. And actually, when this episode airs, I will have just gotten off a plane from LA. So I will be really, really great. Probably would have had some 85-degree weather on my beautifully melanated skin. So I'm going to just project right to that.
Well, the plan is for me to be in Southern California in July. So I can't wait to get a little bit of that too.
I'll leave the light on for you.
Oh my goodness gracious, can't wait. Well, so we have an exciting show today. Yay. We've got a fabulous guest coming up. But first, we were thinking that it would be really nice for all of our loyal listeners. There are now a few thousand of you, which is pretty exciting. And shout out to India, as always.
Yeah,
holding it down. But we haven't had one of those sort of get to know you episodes in a long time, and we've had a influx of new listeners. Welcome. We are so happy to have you. But we thought perhaps we would just take this moment. I think you know what this show is about, but do you really know us? Have you taken the time to fall in love with us? But we thought like maybe from time to time we would pull out an old hat and put some icebreakers in it and just have a little sort of icebreakery get to know you sort of conversation, so that actually the 3 of us could maybe find out some things about each other that we don't know, and you all can get to know us a little better. So what do you all think about that?
Yay!
Yay! I don't know, I'm a little scared. I've been a little bit anxious about this because my Aquarius moon, don't touch me. My Capricorn Venus, you need to earn my love.
I'm also like, have I already accidentally revealed enough about myself on this show?
I'm
Like, what else is
sure.
there?
I can only imagine some of the things, because like I just talk, things just come out of my mouth. I don't know.
Just be talking.
I don't remember what we talked about like last May. Like what? But today's icebreaker was brought to us by Mr. Lee Bynum. So do you want to introduce?
Yeah, I
The
will
floor is
introduce
yours.
it
The pleasure is ours.
with a super short anecdote that I used to play this a lot as I was getting to know people, and was oftentimes something I also would do early on dating somebody, and just kind of ask them to share some unpopular opinions that they hold, because I feel like those kinds of questions will frequently tell you more about a person than when they're talking about their likes or their hobbies. And as I mentioned to Paige and Rocky a few days ago, I once played it with someone who I actually was really starting to like, and the thing that they shared was, I don't believe Patti LaBelle can sing. And I thought, oh, this is a useful game, because I can tell we are not going to get along. We are clearly from a different part of this here universe.
Can I
Um,
just ask though, like, what was the rationale behind that?
I didn't stay in the conversation very long after that, because once he said it, my mind started going to all of the ways that I could get out of that bar and back onto the A train and back uptown where I clearly needed to be, and not spending time with that person who
Was
had
this a person
no
of the
taste.
global majority?
That's what was shocking about it. Because I was like,
Oh.
you're black and from Philly. Who is your mother? Like, what
Wait,
did you grow
what?
up in your house listening to that you have come to this conclusion? Not that you don't like Patti LaBelle, not that you don't enjoy her albums, but the words that the man said to me were, I don't think Patti LaBelle can sing. And I was like, oh, I understand. Excuse me, sir. Can you close my tab? Thank you. I was ready to move on immediately at that point of the conversation.
Yeah, because for me, I would just have so many questions. I have so many questions. And I would
Yeah.
probably stay on the date just until all of those questions were answered, and then I would get my tab.
I need evidence for that one. I need receipts. I need you to like, which performance of hers did you hear that made you draw that conclusion?
Because I could see, like, if somebody were like, oh, like, I don't think Rihanna can sing. And you're like, what's the evidence for that? And it's just the clip of her singing Hero. And that's the
Get
only Rihanna song
Stop
that
it.
they had ever
Stop it.
heard.
Stop
I could be like, okay, I can understand. But have you heard some other things? Let me introduce you to these other things. And I don't know if there's a Patti LaBelle analog. I don't think there is.
There isn't. There
Maybe
isn't.
the Christmas tree lighting, but she's still singing
She just didn't know the
beautifully. She just didn't have
words.
her backup singers.
And the man wasn't holding the cards how she needed to see them.
No.
It was a whole thing, and it was clearly not her fault.
That poor thing. Every time I see that.
It's a Christmas classic. I watch it every year because I
Where are
enjoy
my
it.
background singers?
And she laid them out when she got backstage.
Talk about somebody's getting fired.
Maybe we need to put that clip in the show notes for anybody who is not in the know.
Can do. Well, so I have been racking my brain for an unpopular opinion. And I don't know, like, I don't think I have a lot of unpopular opinions. A, because I'm basic AF. And B, again, I'm an Aquarius moon. So everything that I feel is based in logic and has sound reasoning behind it. Why would it be unpopular? But I did think of one, but I'll let somebody else go first.
Yeah, I had the opposite kind of experience. I have so many that I didn't even know which one to bring out. Like I think I should probably just start with the one that is probably the most fundamental to knowing me, which is I do not believe in sports. I do not like them, do not want to hear about them, do not want to see them, do not care about the World Series or the World Cup. It matters not to me who's playing in what games. Do I care that somebody in the NFL signed a contract for $250 million? I really don't. Like, it's just not my thing. And I think it comes from growing up in a family with a lot of professional athletes who,
Really?
yeah, I got a unhealthy amount of sports shared with me as a kid, until I got to assert a little bit more of my own personhood. I went to basketball camp all summer, every summer. There was one particular year
Wow.
in 1989 when I was made to go to a basketball camp
Oh
and meet Michael
no.
Jordan, and threw a tantrum about having to meet him. So at least I can say that I've met Michael Jordan. I probably embarrassed the hell out of my father, God rest his soul, in the process, because I know I had an attitude and I know I let it show because I didn't care. Michael Jordan is not Bernadette Peters, and I could not make it work in my head that my summer was supposed to be spent throwing a ball at a hoop. Um, what eventually softened that was the boys at basketball camp were much cuter than the
See,
boys at
that's
musical
the
theater
thing.
camp.
Like I was gonna ask you.
And that
Like
did
I
mitigate it
understand.
just a little.
Like I understand. Like okay, you say you don't believe in sports. Like you believe that it exists.
I mean, this is why it's unpopular, right?
But even if you don't enjoy watching the sports or you talking about the sports or the statistics of the sports, as a cisgendered gay man, I mean, I'm just saying.
I mean, one or two of them are okay looking. I will concede that. And if as long as they're not in an interview talking about, tossing around a ball, like I can follow, I'll be interested in it, but it's like there's something in my brain that if a conversation for whatever reason takes a turn to the athletic, my brain goes,
Yeah,
and I
I've
either have to pull out or I
I've
have
seen
to
it
just
happen. I've seen your eyes
seen
just
it.
die.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, everybody, this is not really what's happening right now. And I am just going to shift the conversation to any one of the other things in life we can talk about. Because I can't, oh my God, I have such a challenge with it. So
What about like gay sports? Like gay sports leagues, like gay kickball leagues, or drag race? That's a sport.
Drag Race is an art. And I will go ahead and say this.
But you have to be very athletic with all of the death drops and jump splits and
Or you
whatnot.
can be Bianca Del Rio and not give any of that, right? Like
Fair,
and that's kind of what
fair,
I like
fair.
about the drag stuff. There was a time in my life, like the Michelle Kwan, Christy Yamaguchi years, where I was super into figure skating because it's essentially ballet on ice. And that was the thing I was really into. And every once in a while, like I will like sit down and watch like Venus or Serena or Simone or Gabby or one of those kinds of things because I can see like either what appears to me as like beautiful artistry, but if that match ends, and Naomi sits down and she's giving an interview talking about her backhand, forehand, no God. Like, I just have to say that I'm not here for that part, but I'm legitimately working on it, right? Like at some point I want people to be able to be in my presence, have a 30-40 second conversation about sports and not feel angry about it. Not there
Yeah.
yet, but working.
Fair enough. 'Cause, I mean, I get it. I have a complicated relationship with sports as well, and just the heteronormativity of it all. Like when I was a kid, like I was like little, skinny little gay kid that just wanted to take piano lessons. And my dad was like captain of the everything team in high school, like cross country and baseball and all of these things. And president of his frat and all of this business. And I was born to the straightest man on earth. And I was expected to play baseball and football and all of those things. And I had no interest and no talent for it whatsoever. Still, my hand-eye foot coordination, no, honey. No, absolutely not. I can dance, but no, I'm not kicking things or throwing things. Like that's just not my ministry. But what I did find was that like when I was like a teenager and like kind of closeted, I would be very much like, I was very into like fashion and very into, film and pop culture and music and Fiona Apple specifically. Oh yeah, oh absolutely. Same. Yeah, 100%. But like people like, would be like, oh, you're gay, you're whatever. And I'd be like, excuse me, can a straight man defy stereotypes and enjoy musical theater and opera? I am breaking down barriers, honey.
You're welcome.
This is for all of you, okay? But then once I came out and like, started to get to know myself, another huge part of my personality is that I am like the most competitive person that I am the person that will flip the table if I'm losing at Monopoly, and everyone knows this about me. And one day what happened was like a group of straight men that I'm friends with had their little fantasy football league or whatever. And my friend Neil works he used to work for some international NGO or something like that. And he got transferred to Egypt. And he was like, I'm not going to be able to run my fantasy football team from Egypt. Can you take it over for me? You're the only person who's not in the league who I trust. And I was like, well, honey, I don't know anything about football or any of these things. How do you do this? And he was like, it's easy. You'll figure it out. He gave me some pointers. And I proceeded to lose over and over and over again, forget that it was happening, whatever. And to the point where like, we were in last place, and then another person in the league emailed me and they were like, why don't you trade me all of your best players because you know that you're going to lose anyway. And honey, when I say a fire was lit under me, that's what you don't say. And I took that team all the way to 5th place. I learned all of the football things. I learned all the football terms. I learned all the teams, all the players, and what they do.
God bless you.
I took that team all the way to 5th place. We just missed out on the playoffs. I did well enough that the next year they gave me my own team and I won.
Yeah.
So, yes, and I did it for all the queers. But what it taught me was that like I spent all of this time like rejecting sports, like no, I don't want this, but like actually it's kind of fun, and it's kind of fun to like go to like a bar and drink beer and raw at the screen and all of this things. It can be
that
fun.
Sounds like my worst
okay your face.
Literally the worst. My fantasy football league is one where all the boys are sitting on the bench reading books, and that sounds like fantasy football to me. So I don't know about it. I could never learn the terms or the names of the team. I can learn the names of the teams. I can't match them with their cities. For instance, I know we have one here.
Yes.
And that is the accomplishment.
That's it.
Because I know it's
Do you know what color their jerseys are?
Yes, they're purple.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Hey,
Okay. Okay. There you go.
Because I love purple.
Well, I feel like you could learn all of the things if you were being fueled by righteous anger, like I was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That actually would do it.
Yeah.
Or if these bars were like champagne bars. You like if there was a Moet bar and they were having a football night, I would probably go.
You know, that's actually a great idea. Like a champagne bar
Mm-hmm.
that like have like figure skating on the TV and
Yes.
gymnastics.
Yes.
Doesn't that sound relaxing?
Sounds like
Nice.
a really, really well thought out gay bar. Yeah.
Yes. Lots of seating, low
Yeah.
lighting.
Maybe there's some synchronized swimming in there too.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Gymnastics. Did I say gymnastics? Gymnastics. And drag shows on the weekends. There we
Well,
go.
there's my retirement
Oh,
career. Thank you.
perfect.
Yeah, you're
Solved.
welcome. You're welcome. Okay, Lee hates sports.
Yeah.
Such a rebel.
Like I had my unpopular opinion and then I lost it. Oh no, nope. Now I remember what it is
Okay.
because I have been obsessed with this new show, The Gilded Age on HBO.
I haven't seen it.
I
Have
love
you been
it.
watching it? It's so good. I
It
told my
really
sister about
is.
it this weekend and she binged all of it in like 2 days. Like I told her about it and like the next day she was done because she kept watching it. I love that show, but it brought me to an unpopular opinion possibly about period pieces. Because compared to shows like Bridgerton, I like stuff like The Gilded Age a lot more. I am not a fan of the period pieces and historical dramas that like ignore race.
Mm-hmm.
Or wanted to make it some progressive thing or like, hey, we're just gonna mix it up, colorblind cast it or multicultural it, and with not much explanation on how that happens. Like it has been the thing that has kept me from getting into Bridgerton. That plus what I hear about y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being shady boots and I just need to try it. But that along with like the costuming things I hear, I want elaborate costumes. I want historical accuracy. I want detail. And The Gilded Age is giving me all that, honey. Like it's giving me
those
it's giving
costumes.
me all of that. It's giving me like inclusion of like a Black girl who has a story that makes sense for a Black person, but she's also not a victim. Like it's so that is so much more interesting to me because there are real cases of like us being everywhere. We've been everywhere throughout history. Every historical event just actually tell those stories. I'm not interested in really the made up utopia and all of that because it just I don't know if it's always giving what people think it's giving. Like maybe it is giving the inclusion, sure, like I see myself represented, but I don't necessarily see my story when it's like that. Like it feels like really hollow. It's missing like the nuance of our lives when you just try to come up with some a fictitious environment where like we've transcended race or where it's just not a thing at all. And I do think it still works in like cases like The Witcher. I love that show. I love like
That's
fantasy everything. And to me, like it works there, like the racial inclusion, the colorblind like casting, because there's still other societal dynamics that they explain very well, instances of discrimination or you're dealing with empires versus common folks, or who's considered the indigenous peoples of this area and who just kind of moved in. Like it doesn't ignore that those things exist. So to me it kind of works, and it's clearly a fantasy world. Right. Like it is a truly like fantasy world. But if you go do something that's supposed to be like the historical fiction kind of thing and like no fantasy, like no, I need you to explain that Black girl story. I need you to explain that Asian person
Mhm.
story.
Mhm.
Like, I need their identity to be a part of the story, like, because that's how real life works.
Yeah.
So
Let-
it feels like when they don't do that, you're trying to make something that honestly just makes white folks comfortable with seeing and being able to say, oh, this is really diverse, you know,
Mhm.
without having to confront any of the more like contentious points of that. So yeah, that's my opinion. Y'all gonna have a hard time getting me to watch Bridgerton. You are.
I also didn't watch Bridgerton, and for almost those reasons exactly, which is why I jumped on the Gilded Age. But let me ask you something about what you were suggesting, because this is something that was almost my unpopular opinion. How do you feel about Hamilton?
Gauntlet.
Should we come back on a different show?
The
I'll
gauntlet
say
has been
this.
thrown.
I'll say this. Great bars, beautiful bars, wonderful hot 16s.
I'm logging out.
Oh Lord Jesus.
Also, Leslie Odom Jr. Honey, you did that. You did that. That song is yours.
Beautiful
Yes.
man.
Period.
Beautiful man.
Yeah, beautiful man. I got your album, your Christmas album you did
The
after
Christmas
that.
album
After
is
that
great.
too. It is smooth like butter, okay?
His voice is very pretty.
And what's her name? Elise Goldberry? Honey.
Yes,
Mhm.
she can
Honey.
sing.
To the groom, to the groom, to the bride, to the bride, my sister. Girl, like iconic, like actually iconic. Like, but the rest of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can leave it.
I feel like I had to, maybe this is part of my unpopular opinion too, but like I feel like I couldn't say that for like
Oh no,
5-6 years.
Yeah, you can
But
barely say it now. That's why we're whispering.
I've never gotten it. I've never, and people will say like, oh my God, I saw Hamilton and it changed my life forever. And I'm just like, okay, great. Me too. I am changed. Yeah, no,
I
it's
never even
just-
actually
it's not-
saw it. I never saw it. Did y'all actually see it?
I never.
Like-
I mean, I never saw it on stage, but you know,
Okay.
I heard the.
Oh, right, because it was
soundtrack
on
once or
Disney
twice.
Plus.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
but like hearing the soundtrack once or twice was enough for me.
Yeah, it.
I
You
love
know,
the
it,
soundtrack.
people
I'll still
kept.
sing straight through it. I'll be honest.
I surprised myself when I couldn't get into it, because it's like people of color in theater, a topic about American history, like this sort of immigrant ethos that got painted on top of it. All of the things that I am supposed to find really resonant, and all I could hear was what was ahistorical, what was sort of brushing some of the more nuanced racial treatment under the rug, what felt very disconnected to me about having these Black and Asian and Latinx men playing, you know, these slaveholding men, and sort of never wrestling with some of that. And I don't know, I struggled mightily with all of it, and not to take anything away from what Lin-Manuel Miranda did, because I mean, he clearly did a thing, including create what is an extraordinary engagement tool for a lot of young kids of color who are thinking about theater. They got exposed to something in a new way, and I certainly appreciate that. But I actively didn't get it, and I think if I were to watch it right now, I don't know that I would get it anymore. Like, it just doesn't. It like ping ping, like bounces right off my brain in a way that I'm not absorbing whatever I'm supposed to get about it. And it, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to co-opt your
No.
you don't like in favor of this, but it immediately took me there,
Yeah.
because it's the other thing that I feel like sort of made it to the world with the sort of ahistorical casting and the sort of interestingness of the costumes and the anachronistic dance and whatever. And I just couldn't, it just didn't, I don't know what to tell y'all.
Yeah.
Especially when we got to Thomas Jefferson, because
Jesus.
I remember I have visited his home, Monticello. Like we went there as a, little history lesson on a family vacation once. So like I have seen the quarters where he kept enslaved people, and you just can't get me to go along with that. Daveed Diggs, love him. He did a wonderful job at doing what
delightful
he needed
actor
to do with that. What did I miss? What did I? You did that. You did that. You almost made me forget that it was Thomas Jefferson we were talking about. But other than that, I'm in the camp of, I'll put it this way, I'm in the camp of Toni Morrison, who funded a play called The Haunting of Lin-Manuel Miranda. Which I think is just wonderful, like petty history. Like I think it's I love to share that she did that. But yeah, she funded it because she was like, this needs some critique. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, but it's just like going back to the Bridgerton of it all. It's like you read like interviews with Shonda, who I love, and the other creators, and they're talking about, well, it is historically accurate because like there were Black people and South Asian folks and like living in England in the Regency era, and some of them were landowners and some of them were titled and da da da, and it's like, okay, cool, but how? How sway? And let's tell some of those stories. And having like living here in 2022 and being in an interracial relationship, I know for a fact that it's still a very big deal for some people. So I wonder what it would be like in the Regency era. I would imagine one or two people would have something to say, and that would affect
just one.
That would affect some of these characters and their relationships and lives. And having not seen Bridgerton, I don't know if they do go into that, but it doesn't seem like that's sort of the main thrust, wink, wink, of the show. See what I did there? And that is what gives me pause about sort of jumping into that.
Yeah. And, just to Paige's earlier point, fantasy is a great place to play around with a lot of that. And I watch a lot of fantasy. I watch a lot of sci-fi because sometimes I want to know, do people think Black people are going to be in the future? Let me see what's going on with some of these sci-fi shows, right? And I get to experience some of that there, but I'm not a big fan of having history remixed to me in a way that was like, no, what was happening right then was that I was not able to drink out of that water fountain, right? Exactly. Like I will watch certain things and I feel like when it's not being named, it's just not for me. Like it's clear to me this is for a different audience who has a different project, and I just can't get into it. Like I can't get into sports. It's all of a piece.
Well, I think my unpopular opinion sort of ties a lot of what we've been talking about together. And I've been having such anxiety about this because it's just like, oh, does this mean I'm like an alien or a weirdo? Maybe. But so when I was a kid, my mom is a huge reader. We have bookshelves on bookshelves of, all sorts of books. And I remember like one day, maybe I must have been like 11 or 12, somewhere in that tween sort of stage. And I was looking at all of the books on our bookcase. I was bored. I was looking for something to read. And it's like, we've got history books. We've got science books. My mom was a psych major. We've got psych books. We've got self-help books. We've got how-to books. We've got art and photography books. Not one novel. Not one. And I realized, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen my mother actually like sit down and read a novel, and she, we would watch movies all the time. We would watch, she loved Her Young and the Restless. Oh. she would tape it on VHS so she could watch it after dinner. But like never a novel, and I still to this day like make fun of her, like, you know, because she'll be sitting there reading something about like black holes or something, and I'll be like, why don't you chill out and read a novel? And she's just like, it's just not my thing. It's just it's not my thing. And I have realized that I have become that as I've gotten older, but it's become even like bigger, because one of the things that like I don't sit here and say when we're having these conversations, like, oh, watch Abbott Elementary, oh, watch, you know, The Gilded Age, don't watch Bridgerton, don't watch Hamilton. Part of me like wants to watch Abbott Elementary, part of me wants to like check out The Gilded Age, but I find I get so bored so easily by fiction. I just kind of don't like fiction. Like, I would rather watch a documentary. The most fiction I'll go is like The Real Housewives, but even then, and I think part of it is my time spent in the Columbia University, where you are right now, Lee, your background. Spending some time in the film department, because when I was a kid, I was obsessed with movies. But then, like, I saw how all the sausage is made, and part of my career has been spent in film editing. So, like, I cannot sit there and watch like something that's like badly edited, like a dinner scene in The Real Housewives, like when the water levels and the glasses keep changing, like it's full, it's empty, it's halfway, it's full, it's empty. My poor husband, I would sit there and be like, look at the glasses! And I think it's just easier for me to just like sit down and just like watch a documentary, like unfold, like watch some sort of real story, or like watch, you know, some sort of news program, or like get it, you know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't like fiction.
My vote is Alien.
Maybe just slightly, slightly. Alien human hybrid. Mutant maybe. Mutant.
You know, first of all, thank you for your support. So shared something very personal. Second of all, I think the last movie I saw in theaters was Black Panther.
That was 2018, buddy.
I know.
Wow.
Well, there was a pandemic in there, but still.
For half of that, yeah.
Yes,
I'll give you
yes.
that.
And
Well,
I
at least you
enjoyed it
saw
very
Black
much.
Panther.
And I enjoyed it very, very much. I think there were a couple of like outliers. I did enjoy the first 5 seasons of Game of Thrones.
Okay.
That's a thing.
Yeah, you know, right around when Daenerys was being lifted by the large group of Black people who were saying, you are our queen, Misa. That's about the time that I was like, I'm
checked out.
I'm ready for this to be done. But thank you. I enjoyed. And yeah, no, but I don't, there's not like a sitcom that I watch regularly. There's not a dramatic series that I watch regularly. I actually, and Lee, I think you might take umbrage. I enjoy watching sports on television.
Umbrage.
It's especially a lot for me that you enjoy watching sports on television over fiction.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
We are learning a lot about each other today.
It's my cross to bear, I suppose. And it's not, I'm not like not open to it, but like, especially now, just with my ADHD combined with my new pandemic brain, like, I just don't have the attention span to sit down and watch a movie. I just don't.
I understand. Oh, you know what I saw recently that was excellent. I feel you on the focusing on movies and shows part 2. That's why I'm very selective. I'll never say that I don't like fiction. No, I'm just selective.
Maybe it's that I don't, it's not that I don't like it. It's that it's not my go-to. It's not my favorite.
Got you. Have you all heard of this new movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once?
I want to see that
Yeoh.
so bad.
Go see it.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. That was so good.
It looks
I have a
amazing
feeling
in
it
the
may be the
trailer.
best movie I see all year. It
Wow.
probably will be. it was that good. Like just from start to finish, it is a ride, a wild ride, but also so endearing. And like, I have never seen anything like that had Asian characters portrayed in that way, and just like so full, but also superheroes, but also villains, and like also like just ordinary people trying to live their lives and love their families. Like it was so good. Like I see why I think Michelle Yeoh said she cried when she first read the script, because she was just like, finally, like I've been waiting to be seen in this way. Like finally. And I see why she said that after seeing it. So, you know, if you want something that you want to try a movie theater again, that one was, yeah.
But I'm going to make a concerted effort to, because there are some things that I do want to check out. Like everyone's talking about Abbott Elementary. I want to check it out. And everyone's talking about Everything Everywhere All at Once. I do want to check that out. So maybe I will watch some of these things and I will report back my findings.
Just one episode of Abbott. Just try one. Just
okay.
One.
It's only 22 minutes long.
Yeah, no. I hear you. I hear you. And it's highly ironic that I work in opera, I guess.
Right. Everything is 4 hours. Yeah.
Well, and there aren't a lot of operatic documentaries.
True. I've seen a couple. And they
Really?
were dry.
Yeah.
They were real dry.
I would imagine. Well, that was fun, y'all. Breaking the ice. I think we learned all sorts of new things. I'm an alien, apparently. But that's fine. That's fine. I will be an alien. It's all good. But we'll keep doing that occasionally. Every couple of weeks, we'll pull another question out of the hat. Because that was really fun.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that was cool. All right. So now that the ice is broken, it's time for our next segment. We have a fabulous guest coming up. So we will be right back. All right, everybody, we are back and we have a fabulous guest today. So excited to have mezzo-soprano Mia Athey on the show. Mia is quickly establishing herself. Yay! Mia is quickly establishing herself as a multifaceted performer who tells stories through opera, musical theater, film, and writing. She's been hailed by Opera News as particularly captivating, with a voice that seems so well suited to slipping between speech and song that when she does let loose, it is enormously gratifying. A native of Hyattsville, Maryland, shout out DMV. Mia graduated magna cum laude with a bachelor in music and voice from Catholic University of America and completed the music education certificate program. She went on to receive a Master of Music and Voice from the College Conservatory of Music at the University of Cincinnati. And in 2018, she won 4th place in the 3 Arts Scholarship Fund in the Vocal Music Division. In 2019, as a first-time young artist for the Glimmerglass Festival, she made her operatic debut in the world premiere of Blue as Girlfriend and Congregant number 3 while covering The Mother, and she made her dancing debut in Showboat. She then joined us here at Minnesota Opera as a resident artist from 2019 to 2021. In her first season with Minnesota Opera, she portrayed the role she portrayed Maidservant 2 in Electra, but then, of course, good old COVID came around. So Mia spent the second half of her first season and her entire second season creating art and music from her Minneapolis apartment, where she created a one-woman showcase of opera and Broadway favorites, which she produced, directed, filmed, choreographed, performed, and edited. Child, all the work. Oh my God, work. That is correct. That is work. And she also virtually participated in Opera in the Outfield, the 2021 Minnesota Opera Virtual Benefit, and covered Nancy in our production of Britain's Albert Herring. After that, she returned to the Glimmerglass Festival stage in the summer of 2020, 2021 as a young artist for her third season, where she portrayed Phoebe in the world premiere play of The Passion of Mary Cardwell Dawson, starring friend of the pod, Denyce Graves. Hey.
Hey.
Written by Sandra Seaton and composed by Carlos Simon. She was also featured many other credits at Glimmerglass that summer, but she was also featured in her first opera film, portraying Aisha McNair in the world premiere of The Knock by Alexandra Vrebeloff and Deborah Brevoort. I hope I'm saying that right. This season, Mia covered Janae Bridges in the world premiere of Written in Stone at Washington National Opera. In the two operas, Rise by Kamala Sankaram and A.M. Holmes, and It All Falls Down by Carlos Simon and Mark Bamuthi Joseph. And we are now thrilled that she's returned to Minnesota Opera as a guest artist in Bizet's Carmen, where she's singing Mercédès and covering Carmen for Denyce Graves' directorial debut, which you can go see right now. It is running at the Ordway through May 22nd, I believe. Yes, May 22nd. And we couldn't be happier to have you back in Minnesota. We couldn't be happier to have you back, to have you on the show. Mia, welcome. Welcome to The Score.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
So tell us, how is Carmen going? We're so excited.
Carmen is an absolute blast. It's definitely a whirlwind. Doing Carmen is really, really special for me because Denyce is directing in her directorial debut. And Denyce Graves and I go way back. Like, I'm talking to when I was 16 years old. I saw her singing on Sesame Street, and at that time, my mom was helping me find, singers that look like me. My mom helped me find opera singers that look like me, and we found Denyce Graves, and I knew everything I could about her. And ever since I saw her on Sesame Street, I was like, man, I want to do that. Like, what she's doing, singing Carmen to Elmo, like, this is so awesome. And I didn't know a whole lot about opera, so I reached out to her. And I sent her an email back on like AOL when that was a big thing. And I asked her, what do I do? You know, I'm 16 and people are telling me to go into opera, and this is so new to me. I'm not sure if this is what I want to do. Like, you know, what advice can you give me? And I'll never forget what she said. She said that opera chose her and opera chooses you. And that has always stuck with me. And it stuck with me then. And here I am now. I listened to her advice and I said, well, this chose me, so I'm going to give it a shot. And then I sang for her at a master class years later, probably about 5 years later, when I was an undergrad. And I met her, and I had the printout of my email, and she signed it for me. And I got to sing Mon Coeur for her, and from Samson and Delilah, and it was really, really nice. It was such an amazing experience. Then after that, I saw her in another performance, and she knew me by then. And then I worked with her at Glimmerglass, and now we're here. So it's really awesome to be covering Carmen and to learn from like the master, and to learn not only just Carmen, but the whole scope of this like opera. It's just been amazing, and it's been so surreal. Like, honestly, it's like a dream. And I think I'm not really realizing it, but I'm trying to take in and soak in all the knowledge that I can from her. And she's just an amazing person, an amazing artist, and now an amazing director, you know, who's also a singer and knows like what we need. And she's just truly, truly talented. She's just like a gold mine of talent and wisdom. And I'm so grateful to be working with her. And it's like a really big full circle moment for me. So I truly couldn't be any happier. It's like just walking on cloud nine like every day. Eric Sean Fogel and Denyce Graves, they have us doing everything from dancing to fight choreography. Like I really truly beat up one of our dancers. Beat up in, air quotes. No one gets hurt. And we're singing. It's everything. It's a whole lot in a little under 3 hours.
I mean, absolutely. And you were telling us before we started recording what a trip it is to be back in the Ordway after a couple of years.
Right. The last time I was in the Ordway was in 2019, and technically I was study covering Rosina in the Barber of Seville. And I think, it was the last show I saw. I think I was in like the balcony. I think the first tier. I'll never forget. And now I'm back, and it's really been surreal just walking in, through those stage doors and being back in this place after so much has changed. Like I've changed as an artist, as a person, and I'm just so happy to be back.
Oh, that's so great. We're so happy to have you here. So one thing that I'm curious to ask, so as a young artist, you've been here in Minnesota, you've, recently, well, relatively recently, sort of, come out of, an academic setting. And so just as a young artist so far, being, in the industry, sort of, getting, your first jobs, how do you feel as though your racial or ethnic identity has sort of shaped your career journey so far in opera?
I think that that's a really great question. It's actually really shaped my career because my operatic debut at Glimmerglass was in Blue, and it was an opera with an all-black cast. So that was, that's how I got my start. And I often wonder, like,
every day.
Right. I'm like, if they did another opera that was like from the repertory, I'm like, would it have been the same story? So, or the same opportunity. So it's really great how that started. And then, and the knock, Aisha McNair is, her character is based off of a Black woman who was married to a commander. So it's actually shaped a lot of my career without really realizing it. And then the Passion of Mary Cartwell Dawson, it's like all coming. It's like it's someone that has to be, African American.
For the folks in the audience, the one or two who may not be Mia Athey stans yet and don't know as much about your background as we do, maybe you could say a little bit about your ethnic background. And I'm particularly curious because you have worked in the theater and you've also worked in the opera, if you feel like you are accorded different opportunities in the different areas.
So I guess one thing about this time that we're in, like post-pandemic and post-George Floyd, I had one of my mentors that told me this, like, it's a great time to be Black. So like apply for everything, But one problem that I do face, and this happened both in the theater and the opera world, is that people see me and they don't know what race I am. And throughout my whole life, people have thought I've been every race, every single one, including white. Actually, recently, someone thought I was white, which was interesting, but everyone, we all have different eyes, different lenses, so we see things differently. But I had an experience when I was auditioning for this one company a while back that they said they were having every African American singer read for this certain role. So they gave me the sides before I went in, and I was super excited because I'm like, ooh, this is an opera, and I get to like do this little, like speak a little bit, do this dialogue. And so I sang, and it went well. And then they were like, okay, thank you. Like they didn't have me read, and I left and I asked one of my friends who was working there, I'm like, what's going on? And we sort of realized that they didn't know I was Black, which is something that I don't put on my resume, you know. But however, in musical theater, I do say that, you know, I'm mixed, I'm African American and Caucasian, because I feel like it fits, like they need to know. But in opera, I'm actually like asking myself, should I put that down? Is that something that people need to know? But then on another side of this perspective is that I sometimes feel like, for example, a lot of people think I'm Hispanic or Latinx, and I have gotten like asked to audition for roles that are for a woman who is Latinx, and I've always paused because I wasn't sure how to approach this, because I as an artist will approach it with like the utmost respect and not portray a stereotype of any kind. But I'm like, well, how's a person who is Latinx who knows me and is like, I know that's not her, you know, her heritage or her background. How are they going to feel? So I started asking some colleagues and friends who are different backgrounds how they would feel. And they seemed okay with it. They were like, as long as it's not a white person, you know, portraying, you know, that. So, but I mean, like, for example, if like my costume in Carmen in Act 4, like I put it on and I was talking to Juana, our amazing costume designer, and she was like, oh my gosh, you know, we were like, I look like Frida Kahlo. And it's uncanny. Like, I will be posting this on my Instagram, so watch out. I love like any moment to do like a split screen. I just love it. But yeah, like I would love to portray Frida Kahlo, even though that is not my background, because of who, you know, Frida Kahlo is. And I would portray it with the utmost respect. So, but that's sort of where I sit. Like, for example, there was this audition, and the character was Harriet Tubman, and I was like, they're not gonna hire me. I shouldn't even audition, you know, because I don't look like her. But then what do I do? Because that's, you know, that's my background, that's my ancestry, that's where I come from. So it's tricky. I think that it's really up to casting directors on all sides, from theater to opera, to Broadway, to really be aware that people of color come in all different shades. There's no just one look for someone who's Black or, you know, Latinx or, you know, whatever other backgrounds. We all look different, and we're getting more, according to the census, like we're getting more mixed, especially like in America. So I think it's something we need to really address, because we're sort of leaving people out, and it's like it's tricky, but it's actually, I think, more of like an education issue, that people just need to understand. But I do want to also say that since we're talking about colorism, I understand that a person that looks like me, who is light-skinned, I benefit from colorism. I understand that there's a side of colorism where it goes, it's unfortunate for people who are darker skinned. And that's not my experience, but I see it. Like in certain films that won't be named, you know, casting all. Oh. I haven't seen In the Heights, and I love Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I do want to see it. But when I saw the preview, I immediately was like, everyone looks like light-skinned. Everyone's the same, like light skin, and that's not true. Like, I've met people, you know, from that. Who are Latinx, you know, from that area, and you know, it's a whole spectrum of color. So that was sort of shocking. So I understand that side of it,
If I could just follow it up, thank you for saying that, because I think that was a really important intervention, right? Because the colorism, it works in multiple directions and it brings people in some instances, and in other instances it closes off doors, and sometimes to your own history, right? And I've
Right.
been involved in productions that have cast things in, like, we are casting something set in antebellum US, and there are these whole conversations about who reads as a slave
Mm,
and who doesn't, right? And I
right.
think, like, those
Yeah.
kinds of conversations are often wildly ahistorical, right? And because the idea that there were lighter complexion slaves should be very familiar to anyone who's read a book, right?
Right.
But then the other piece of it, with something like In the Heights, and again, no shade to Lin-Manuel Miranda, hugely talented brother. I really have a huge appreciation for what he did. I lived in Washington Heights for the better part of 10 years, and people spoke to me in Spanish every day, because any of us could be
Mhm.
Afro Latinx, right?
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
way the diaspora has worked beautifully is that any of us could be Black from any part of the world, right? And I think that really was lost in that moment. And, not to jump on that anti Rita Moreno bandwagon, but I think that sort of idea that this isn't a thing that we need to deal with right now, that people aren't seeing this and being affected by it right now, is not quite the right take, right?
Right.
Yeah. I wonder what you think about what casting can do, what people who are choosing their their seasons and thinking ahead of time about their casting, like what can people do to be more thoughtful, more more nuanced, some yeah, I definitely have some ideas and like some books that I would like people to read, and some documentaries, some movies that they might need to watch. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, about how we can, be inclusive and be like not ahistorical? Yeah.
Right. I think about this a lot. Not not just only as like as a performer, but as someone who is mixed. How, because a lot of people don't realize it. I can't speak for all white people, but I do not think they are quite aware of the difference of shade. I think they just say, "Oh, they're Black," you know. But and there's, I think it's just so it's an education thing. But I know that um the Black Opera Alliance and Opera America had this sort of virtual like seminar that I did attend, and they were different people were discussing, people from all different backgrounds were discussing like their experiences and their issues. And I guess the answer is to have more of that so people are more aware. Um, I I wish I had a better answer, because I really do think about like how to bring that to people's attention. But I think just talking about it is probably the best thing. And I know that there's been a lot going on in the past 2 years, and some people may, um, I guess, be tired of hearing it. But my fear is that if we don't keep talking about it, that people will forget about it. Um, I know that I saw on Facebook there was some talk about, some issues that some opera goers and donors at different companies were having with like the diversity and inclusion of casting. And that they're sort of shocked with all of, I guess, the melanin of different shades that that they might see on the stage, and it's sort of shocking because I'm thinking, all right, we're moving forward, but I guess we have to understand there's a lot of people that want to go back because change is sort of hard for certain people, but that's the thing about change. If we look, at the history of change, especially of African Americans in the United States, like it took a lot of time. Like the civil rights was a period. It wasn't just a couple years. Like it took it. We're still doing it. It's not over. I don't think
Yes.
it's going to end. Right. I think we have to keep, keep going, keep talking about it, keep finding ways to like bring people in, you know, to understand it. And I guess not blame them for not seeing it, but opening people's eyes. I think that that's the answer. But I'm really curious to know what ideas you have, Paige, and what books you were talking about.
Yeah. I think of a few things that like have really changed my perspective of colorism. And even one of them isn't like directly about colorism, but I once read this book called Push Out: The Criminalization of Black Girls in Schools. And there's a lot of data in there about just how it starts so young, the colorism. They were comparing like school suspension and things like that amongst like lighter skinned Black girls versus darker skinned Black girls. And it was just like a clear, harsher punishments for dark skinned Black girls. And it even goes all the way to, of course, the school to prison pipeline and things like that. And so that was one that like really changed my understanding of just how deep it went. Or I wouldn't say just changed my understanding, but it also like contextualized a lot of what I saw growing up and didn't know really how to name. Really. Yeah. I also even though it has some it has some moments that I don't really like that much, but that documentary Good Hair with Chris Rock.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. He has plenty of moments where he's clearly like joking in a not fair way, but it does illuminate as a good like beginner example. Beginner example of like how texturism plays into things as well. And what else have I read? You know what, the very first thing that explained colorism to me as a child was the movie School Days by Spike Lee. That my mother is like, she's deep dark skin, beautiful, she's a chocolate drop. And so to explain to me and my little sister who are both lighter than her, and my little sister is even lighter than me, she had us watch School Days, not the whole thing because we weren't old enough to see the whole thing, but just the scene Good and Bad Hair, and the kind of duel between the two sororities. And, you know, one is full of mostly lighter skinned girls, looser curl pattern, and the other is mostly darker skinned girls, kinkier hair texture, all of that thing. And she was like, this is kind of reflective of of my experience. And she even, if you Black and you listen to this, you know what I'm talking about the stereotypes about AKAs and deltas among the, Black Greek organizations. And my mom was explaining how she's a dark-skinned AKA and how that a lot of that was not the norm in terms of stereotypes. So I think that was like some of my earliest education. And I mean, I do love how films like that through satire can like actually teach us a lot. So yeah, watch School Days, y'all.
And don't forget those lyrics. The song starts off with Tisha Campbell singing to Kime, don't you wish you had hair like this, then the boys would give you a kiss, right? And I think the way they set that whole number up, my mother is also a darker complexioned AKA, and our godmother is a very fair skinned Delta. So we grew up hearing a lot about like those kinds of dynamics, right? Yeah. And I think School Days, as problematic as some of the movie is, it is probably the best encapsulation of like what that kind of dichotomy is. And I think he did such a great job of casting such beautiful and talented women in both camps to be able to kind of play out that like even the idea of one group is supposed to be the conventionally pretty girls and the other group is not, was problematized by the fact that the women on both sides were so beautiful. Sorry, it's like one of my all-time favorite movies. I grew up so convinced I was Jasmine Guy, so like there's a way that like that like I absolutely love that scene. I could talk about it all year, but I will drop a link in the show notes and let people watch it for themselves.
I thought of another great example, the Whitman sisters, who were Black women. They were very, very fair skinned. Most of them could pass. And they had the longest running and highest paid show on the Black vaudeville circuit in the early 1900s. I have a book about them. And I think it's called like The Royalty of Negro Vaudeville or something like that. But what they did is that they like really used their privilege and had like a troupe of Black performers, like who were almost all more darker skinned than them. They even went into some spaces, into theaters that normally wouldn't have Black performers there. And, you know, one of them would put on her little blonde wig and go meet with the managers or whatever. So she would pass and, you know, get them into, you know, spaces where they might not normally be, or where they would have very, very different treatment. So I think that they're a great example. I think everyone should read the book about them. And they also use their privilege to like make sure their Black performers were treated really well. They even had like young Black children who were super talented dancers and stuff. And parents felt comfortable sending them on tour with these sisters because they knew they took really good care of them. And that it was like it would be like having a bunch of parents around. Like they wouldn't let them get taken advantage of because they were Black and things like that. So I think it's like a great example of like what that privilege looked like in the 1900s and how people could like weaponize it in other Black people's favor and to, you know, make things better for all of us. So check out the Whitman sisters. Yeah.
And Mia, I'm kind of curious about this too. So I shared with you when we chatted a few weeks ago how fascinating I found your artist showcase last season. I thought it was like not just a great commercial for you as an artist, but it was also like a really compelling personal statement about who you are as a human being. And it really, really got me thinking about sort of how multifaceted every Black performer I know is, right? Like it, and we talk about this a lot on the show. It's not just enough to be as good as your counterparts, but you not only have to be twice as good. Most of us also seem like we play multiple instruments and we compose and we sing, we dance, do backflips, do surgery, like what have you. And watching your artist project, like I also got a really keen sense that you are someone with a lot of musical knowledge and facility. If someone were going to write a show around you, hint, hint, what kinds of things would you like to be showcased, and sort of who would that character be that you're playing ideally?
Wow, that's a wonderful question. And also, thank you so much for your compliments, Lee. I appreciate it. That showcase was really near and dear to my heart. I was just so glad I could do musical theater. And I had the green light. I was like, yes. But if someone were to do like a show based around me, it would definitely be a lot like that showcase. There would definitely be opera. There would definitely be, you know, musical theater. So when I say musical theater, I mean belting. And because I can do like belting, I can do like legit, which is opera, and then mixed. So just all of that in there. And there would definitely be dancing, and there would definitely be poetry, because I also write poetry. I write a little bit of everything.
Yes.
So yeah, my writing's similar to myself as a performer. I do like poetry. I'm working on the second draft of a psychological thriller novel of mine.
Oh,
What?
And yeah, it's really cool. And yeah, I have written a novella, and I'm working on a couple of like short stories because I don't have time to write books anymore because that's so I'll have it be as short as possible. So yeah, there would definitely be like an aspect of my writing in there that I would get to perform, which would be great. And there would definitely be wigs involved, lots of wigs,
Yes.
different looks. And there would definitely be a play on gender because I don't know if you guys have seen, but for Halloween I love dressing up as men. And
I love it.
I
I
yeah.
love it. I have seen, yes. I stand.
Yeah, I have to owe it to opera because of pants roles. Like one of
Mm.
the first roles I did was Carabino, and it was weird at first. I'm like, you want me to be a young boy? Like what? In opera? How does this not sound like it fits? But yeah, and I just loved it. I love dressing up as a man and tapping into that, masculine energy. Um, so yeah, there would definitely be that in there. And yeah, lots of different looks, lots of really cool outfits, lots of cool costumes. Um, I think I hit on everything.
While we started this conversation talking about colorism, I think the idea is that there are stories that aren't being told, right? There's sort of nuances, aspects of our experiences that aren't being captured. And maybe you could share a little bit about what other stories you would like to see the opera telling in the future. And also maybe not just limited to opera, right? I know there are theater folks who listen, and all four of us are very invested in the theater as well.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I just like with the conversation that we just had with Paige about colorism, I would love to see an opera like about that, where you have like a cast of, it's all people of color, and you can explain this sort of like light skin, darker skin, and explain that to people. That just sort of like a light bulb went off, and I'm like, ooh, like that would be great. Or even like an opera about someone that's mixed, because it's something I think about. And there's a little project I'm working on. I've been saying I'm working on it. It's been a year. It's over like in the corner, waiting when I have time. Talking about that experience, especially being black and white in America, because there's all kinds of ways to be mixed. But
Mhm.
I feel like here in America, it's an experience, and there's times where you can feel, you know, um, included maybe, but a lot of times where you can feel excluded, like you don't belong, like where do I fit, and if I did write it, I would call it other because I'm so tired of checking that other box under like a race. Let us check more boxes. But anyway, um, but another an aria that I wrote in this program, it's called Cupid's Itch from If It Were an Opera Expose. And it's basically like my take on if Don Giovanni were a woman, and a woman having all these different lovers, which is something that you hear a little bit about, but it's sort of, there's a stereotype with that. And sort of like empowering it, like sort of it being, sex positive and putting a positive spin on it. Um, that's something I would like to see in the liberation of women.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a great start to it, and I'm happy to report I do know someone who is currently writing an opera with colorism as one of the major themes. I am not deputized to speak on it, but I will say keep your eyes and ears peeled
Ooh,
because from what I've heard of it, it's pretty fantastic. So.
ooh, ooh! I'm so excited.
That is in our wheelhouse.
Hmm. I
Well,
don't know
one
who
thing
it
you
is or
said.
when it's showing, but I will be there to see it.
Well, one thing you said, Mia, about checking off more boxes got me thinking, given your experiences in the industry, what, advice do you have to all of the other biracial or multiracial singers, librettists, designers, artists who are coming up in the industry? What do you have any sort of words of wisdom for them or things for them to look out for, or just any advice in general?
That's a really good question. Sort of advice that I would like to take myself. Um, so my whole life, I've always been asked the question, where are you from? What are you? So I'm, I just answer, you know, what are you? Oh, I'm a human. I'm a woman, you know. Where are you from? I'm from Maryland. Like, to get them to like be more specific. But they were always asking about my ethnicity. I was actually, just at the gala we had. I was at a table with donors, and one of my colleagues was there, and he was talking to a donor, but I was talking to another one, and I overheard the donor ask him, "Is Mia American?" And so I was like, "Oh wow, like that's crazy," because I guess to her I might look like I'm, not from here. And I didn't like I was already in another conversation. It's one of those moments where you just stay where you're in the conversation. And I trust my colleague said, she's from Maryland, But it's something that it's a question I'm always asked. And I tell people, but I always ask, well, where did you think I was from? And that's where like I get just a hodgepodge of like, wow, interesting answers. And sometimes like I would get upset. There was like a period I would be like, why can't they just see me as a person? I don't go up to, white colleagues of mine and ask them, where are you from? You look Irish, like I don't do that. And I understand, like I have to understand this is the world we live in. This is the society and the time. And I believe there will be a time that it will not be the same, especially according to National Geographic in like 2050. I think there will be a lot of people. There's an article saying how people will look, and it'll be very like everyone will almost look the same, like a generation of people, which I find that interesting in America only. But I would tell other artists that be proud of where you are, where you're from. Be proud of who you are and where you're from. And if someone asks, tell them with pride, like don't be offended, because it's actually good that they're asking. I've been in situations where like when I was in grad school, there was a gathering of all the Black students, and I found out about it last minute, and realized that the person gathering all these Black students thought she didn't even know what I was, and she didn't even ask. And I'm like, well, just ask me. Like, that's a moment I'm like, please ask, because I want to be at the table, with, all my other Black colleagues. So, yeah, I would say just be proud and let people know where you're from. And, one thing that's a very big issue, just I would say, I guess in the Black community, a lot of people, when I tell them I'm mixed, the first thing is, but you're Black, right? You're not, you're not checking white, are you? I'm not in a place where it's something that like gets me, because I did my ancestry and it turns out I'm more European than I am African. But I'll never, like, no matter how mixed a person is, like I'll never be able to experience that privilege of being white, So I have experienced privileges of, being mixed, and I hate it because I can see it happening. And my mom taught me at a very young age to notice that. But I would, to sum it up, let people know who you are, and don't be ashamed of being both, or if you're mixed with three things, or, or just, if you're just one, like be both or be all that you are, because a lot of people want to put you in a category. And even like with what I do as a performer, I can't just do one thing. I relate it almost to maybe being mixed, like maybe, I don't know, God was like, she can't choose one thing, so we're going to just make her two races, and she'll like do a million other things as a career. So
There you go. Be proud. That is that is a word of wisdom. Absolutely. Well, Mia, I'm looking at the clock and I can see that we've just got a little bit of our time together. But before we go, I just want to make sure that you're able to get your website, social media handles out there for anybody who wants to follow your career and all the things that you're doing and all the fabulous wigs and costumes. So you want to tell everybody where to follow you, where to find you?
Sure. On Instagram, my handle is the real Mia Athey, and my website is miaathey.com. On Facebook, I believe it's Mia the Mezzo. And yeah, I think that's everything. Everywhere you can find me and follow me.
All right, dope. Well,
And
all of that.
One more question. Other
Yes,
than
go for it.
Carmen, though, do you have any upcoming projects that you'd like to shout out?
So there's oh wait, I don't, there's something coming up. I can't say it yet. So there is something. So be on the lookout. If you follow me on social media, I will be posting it there very soon. Otherwise, the hustle is very real. So I'm out here.
Well, everybody go follow Mia on all of her channels. Go look at her website to get news for this upcoming top secret project. Can't wait to see what that is. And also, Carmen is running until the 22nd. It is currently at the Ordway Center for the Performing Arts in St. Paul. So go to mnopera.org and get your tickets and go see Mia on stage. So Mia, thank you so much for being here with us. We're honored to be in your presence.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you.
And we will be right back. And we are back. And it's time for everyone's favorite segment. Hit it, Paige. A one,
It's
a two. Okay.
You see, you usually do like a 1,
I
2,
know,
3
I
hit it, and
know,
this time
I know.
you did a hit it,
I'm
1, 2,
off. I was
3,
off. I was
so-
off. I was off. Just sing the song. Just sing the song.
Peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly time, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly.
It's more delicious when it's weird. Oh my goodness, but this is the segment where we shout out some Black things, people, places, concepts, ideas that are making us happy this week. So I will turn it over to whoever wants to go first.
I'll jump in because I'm real excited about my PB&J. It is Lizzo. Thank you,
yes.
Queen Lizzo, for
Mhm.
gifting us not only with a new shapewear line, shout out to that, keeping us snatched out here, but also because of your show, Watch Out for the Big Girls.
I love that
Y'all, isn't it so
show. It's so good.
Oh my gosh.
So
it is
good.
like, for someone who has been a big girl all her life, it is like therapeutic. It is joy. It is church. I will probably rewatch it.
Aw.
First of all, I just loved the name because Watch Out for the Big Girls used to be my song.
Still
I
my
had a
song.
little group of friends who were all like thicker girls when I was like younger, and we would dance to it. We would like make a little team and say, "Watch out for the big girls." Like it was. So that alone brought memories, and to just, to one, see all this talent, like it's very apparent like how much raw talent we missing out on when people with bigger bodies are counted out. Like they were killing it from episode 1, and to see also Lizzo just like encourage them to really do something different from what most reality competition shows do. Like, she just fostered this really nurturing environment and encouraging them to grow while it is still like kind of competitive, but yet not that competitive, because she's like, you could all get a chance to be on my tour.
Mhm.
It's like about who's ready, not just a competition. Like, if all of you are amazing and ready, then I'll take all of you. Like, and I love that. I love that so much.
It sounds like she's like the anti-Tyra.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, very much so. Even in their makeovers and like
Mhm.
honoring their consent over how they appear in photo shoots or what's happening in their makeovers, treating them so well with this lovely house. So many also like fat people have things with food,
Mhm.
or like other people judging how we eat or feeling self-conscious. One of the most amazing things is watching her like fat girls just nourish ourselves like with quality food and not having to worry about who's plate watching or whatever, or being told to be on whatever diet. I'm just like, yes, y'all working your asses off. Like, yes, good, eat a nourishing meal. All of it is just to watch them be nurtured and have their talents be recognized, and Lizzo just doing her thing out here and about to sell out these arenas on her tour. Like, work, ma'am, work. Lizzo is my Black joy, like for this week and probably for all days. So yeah.
And I
That's a
do have to
great
say,
show.
I mean, Lizzo just is an amazing artist, performer, person. It seems like I've never met her, but it seems, and it just alone, just her presence on TikTok, just it just brings me joy every time she pops up on my For You page, because she's doing something either incredibly virtuosic or just incredibly silly, and it's just like, thank goodness for her that she's in the world. She's just amazing.
Yeah.
And the penultimate episode takes place right here in Minneapolis. And it was kind of fun for me to watch as a person who's new to the cities and has just not seen a lot. Like the way it was shot, where they went, all of that was like, oh, I need to make sure I get out of my house and start experiencing a bit more of the region, because it was also just great to see that part and all the love she got coming back to Minnesota. So it was a great show, and like you, Paige, I'll probably rewatch it because it was a fun, easy, stress-free, delightful, except sometimes when some of the girls had to go home, really delightful show. The last episode, I don't know if you've made it to the last episode, but I
Not
did.
yet.
I cried just a little bit, happy
Aw.
tears mostly, but also it's like, no, don't send anybody home, don't. But it was a great show. It was really great.
So where is this streaming?
Amazon.
Yeah,
think.
Amazon.
Oh, okay, I can do that. And it's
And
not
you should.
fiction, so
It's
I
not
can. Well, I'll definitely have to check that out.
Please do.
So I'll share two very brief pieces of pure Black joy, quite local. The first one is a huge congratulations to my husband, Damian Norfleet, and his writing
Hey.
partner, Joey
Yay.
Chang. They wrote a show called Rajaneer, and it was awarded a grant from New Music USA for its continued development. Super excited for them, and yay! We'll encourage all of you producing folks out there to be on the lookout for it. Hopefully it'll be at a concert hall coming your way sometime soon. So big shout to them. And my second one is to my niece, my first niece, who just yesterday turned the big 10, finally into the double
Aw.
digits. So to Princess Tiana, happy birthday. I wish I were there to share it with you. And to my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, good luck, because in just 3 years, you're going to have a teenager, and that sounds scary.
Oh, snap. Happy birthday, Tiana.
Happy birthday.
Well, I think that's where we're going to leave it for today. today. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you to our guests for being with us this week. Check out the show notes for all of the pertinent info. And and rate, review, give us 5 stars, 5, 5 cinco. I don't know any other languages. And some words would really help us out as usual. Subscribe wherever you listen to fine podcasts, and we are the finest of the fine podcasts. Lizzo says so. And share us with your friends, and write to us at thescore@mnopera.org. Send us your comments, your questions, your concerns. And we might read your letter on the air, and concerns, we might read you on the air. So that would be fun. And I think that's it. Did I say everything? I think I said everything.
You didn't ask if we had words of wisdom.
Oh, do you have any words of wisdom?
I do, finally.
Ooh.
If you are not registered to vote, get registered to vote. There's a lot of tomfoolery
Yes.
happening in the government, and
Yes.
only we can do something about it. So go register to vote, be active, be thoughtful, and do a thing so that we are not continually acted upon in ways that make us unhappy.
Yes, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. There are some distasteful things, but I feel as though fascism is the most distasteful of them all. So let's try and avoid that if we can.
Nip that in the bud.
If we can. All right. Well, I think that's it for us. We will be back in 2 weeks, as usual. And until then, be easy, y'all. Bye.